The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it.
The Constitution will not be saved in Washington, as prophesied by Joseph Smith.
You are aware of certain kinds of protesters, but in Michigan, when protesters carry guns and Confederate flags and swastikas and call for the governor of Michigan to be beheaded and shot and lynched, somehow you're not aware of that. Somehow you didn't know about it, so you didn't send federal agents in to do to the president's supporters what you did to the president's protesters. In fact, you didn't put pepper balls on those protesters. So the point I'm trying to make here, Mr. Barr, that I think is very important for the country to understand, is that there is a real discrepancy in how you react as the Attorney General, the top cop in this country, when white men with swastikas storm a government building with guns. There is no need for the president to, quote, activate you because they're getting the president's personal agenda done. But when black people and people of color protest police brutality, systemic racism, and the president's very own lack of response to those critical issues, then you forcibly remove them with armed federal officers, pepper bombs, because they are considered terrorists by the president. You take an aggressive approach to Black Lives Matter protests, but not to right-wing extremists threatening to lynch a governor if it's for the president's benefit.
To address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to stand against anti-Semitism. I stand before you as a Republican member of Congress to address the issue that transcends party lines and touches the very core of who we are as Americans. Anti-Semitism is a pernicious form of hatred that has persisted for far too long in our world. It undermines the principles of tolerance, acceptance, and compassion that we hold dear as Americans. It is deeply troubling and entirely unacceptable that a colleague on the other side of the aisle has labeled Israel a racist state. We must be resolute in our efforts to combat this hate and be unequivocal in our condemnation of anti-Semitism in all of its forms from all persons. The Jewish people have shown incredible resilience and strength as they have faced unimaginable suffering throughout history, from the horrors of the Holocaust to the persistent prejudice that seeks to marginalize them even today, as the Jewish people have been unjustly targeted. Let us join hands in solidarity, Mr. Speaker, with our Jewish brothers and sisters and make it our mission to combat and eradicate anti-Semitism once and for all.
Lots and lots of demonstrators and protesters throughout the Capitol, around the Capitol building. But I want to show you, it's all ended here at Union Station. This is the remnants of one U.S. flag that was burned here. Over in the distance there, you can see the ashes there. That's the remnants of another flag. I want to show you sort of the bell over here, though, the copy of the Liberty Bell that's out in front of the station. That's been covered in graffiti. And then the Columbus Memorial has also been covered in graffiti here. And Jonathan, if you could show all three U.S. flags on the three flagpoles, massive flagpoles out in front of Union Station have been pulled down, and Palestinian flags have been put up in their place.
Travis went good song. On the bus this morning, a young black woman sat next to me, and I noticed she had a shirt that had an American flag that was black and white. I remember as a young kid talking, or well, I wasn't really talking, I was just listening to my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers. And I recall one of the things that they wanted to do was to get other people to be tricked into promoting white supremacy, Christian nationalism, when they are the targets of abuse for these kids, for this terrorist organization conspiracy. And so, yeah, I can understand that she probably didn't know its Confederate origins. That she thought, well, I'm black and white, I'm black, America has not been kind to blacks through its history. And so, yeah, that brought to mind about little babies born into the world. They see the world in black and white until color starts to fill in. And so they don't see the color black as an evil color, and the white color as a good, heroic, hero, righteous color. It's just the way babies see things. They don't attach morality to what they see. And when they start seeing in color, still, they do not attach morality, good or bad, to color. And so they are a blank slate for which they are now beginning to input data into their brains through their 5 physical senses. And of course, babies are prone to extreme emotional responses because of their inability to communicate. So when they're hungry, they cry. When they poop their pants, they cry. When they're cold, they cry. But the emotions are a response to their experiences with the 5 senses. And a baby begins to process their reality. And so it is essential that parents raising babies must input truth, logic, science-based information on the 5 senses. Because if you put in fallacy arguments that come from religion, Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, cartoons, and psychology, you're going to cause permanent damage to the child. That it'll be harder for them to learn how to learn and reprogram their brains to get rid of the religion and the psychology corrupted programming. And so, yeah, this is part of the trick that my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers were talking about, to get blacks to support their agenda, to get women to support their agenda, to get gays and lesbians to support their agenda. Because those were the only two letters that existed back in those days. It was psychology in the 90s who created the others to bully people into. And see how effective they've been. And so, I was born and raised in the Covenant Mormon. And sure enough, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has been lying to us about scripture interpretation, about our founder, about the origins of our church history. Exactly what Christians did to the Jews with the creation of Christianity with the Nicene Creed in 325 CE. They pulled what's called an anachronism on the Jewish scriptures, turning them into literal histories. Constantine created the first militant organization against the Jews. Because Rome wasn't just attacking the Jews, but there was a Jewish uprising against Rome that destroyed the temple and scattered them into Saudi Arabia, where the Babylonians had escaped to after the Persians conquered them, and from which sprang another abominable leader of a religion, Muhammad, emerged. And so yes, I still see, when I go out and about, Muslim women who are seeking refuge in America and have been placed in Utah, who are here because of the religious abuse from their homeland, seeking asylum in America, and yet they are still wearing the clothing of their religious abusers. That's like a person who leaves the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whether through excommunication or through leaving on their own, becoming a FOMO, former Mormon, and continues to wear the underwear. You know, for me, the underwear had no value to me, and so yeah, I one day realized I don't need to wear the underwear anymore. So the first thing I got rid of was the tops. And then as the bottoms started to get too worn out, too holy, I then realized, oh, yeah, I have to buy Aaronic priesthood underwear now. It is extremely difficult to find white, but nonetheless. And so, yeah, lots of deprogramming was required of me as I'm transitioning myself out of the church. See, I didn't have a faith crisis because I studied. I knew how to learn how to learn. I knew how to deprogram the falsehoods that had been taught to me from my childhood, not just with the church, but my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that they got me to do and say that over time I had to realize, oh, they got me, and stop saying or doing those things. And so when I found the Council for National Policy, I had already found that the church had paid to have me disappeared for 6 years of my life, and intended to be for the rest of my life. They were able to get a former mission companion who was disgruntled. He wanted me to take away his agency and tell him and compel him what to do in all things. Not kidding! Mark Augustine in Newburgh, New York. And Creel Coford punished him by keeping him with me for 6 months because he could not learn how to get along with me. He was constantly doing splits with the zone leaders so that he can be driven to complain to President Coford. And he could never learn how to be a missionary. He was pressured by his peers, who were all getting 200 baptisms per companionship per month. And so we were the only companionship in the whole entire mission of 200 missionaries, thus 100 companionships. Although it's even less because there were a number of Spanish companionships that had a threesome. And and there was also those who were waiting for their visas to get cleared. They were also plugged in. And so the actual ones were 200-ish. And so there was a lot of pressure on him to conform and comply. And so he had to victim blame someone else to cast it away from him. And I was the senior companion. They didn't tell me that I was the senior companion. I treated him as an equal. I let him decide how he wanted to run the area. I gave him his agency. He wanted me to take it away from him. Dumbass. So anyway, regardless of all the memories and the humiliations galore with those teenage black girls, I suggest we not confront her, Elder. We should wait until the appointment with her mother. If you wanted me to be the... and tell you what to do, and then the one time I make a suggestion, and then you don't listen, you deserve what you got. And so, yeah, he took it out on me. He held a grudge, apparently, and was a part of sending me down the river, along with my parents, and along with others who helped the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. All I did was petition for redress of grievances in the state of Utah. You know, the First Amendment. And so, it is very clear from reading the Constitution that all American citizens are to be treated equally in regards to life, liberty, and property. That the violations of such can constitute a crime. So that if you murder somebody, the Constitution is set up so that a person is to be prosecuted in a court of law for murder. When you steal something, you are to be prosecuted for your theft. If you hold somebody hostage, you are to be prosecuted for holding somebody hostage. And if you commit an insurrection against the United States of America, the President of the United States of America is required to invoke the Insurrection Act. Failure to adhere to the Constitution will result in its destruction. You let murderers go free. You lock up innocent people for murder. And likewise for the others, there is no justice. The justice system has failed and collapsed. The justices are not following the Constitution. The attorneys, whether prosecutor or defense, are not following the Constitution. Allowing businesses not to be criminally sued, but being civilly sued, denies justice to those who are victims. And so this Council for National Policy that I found in 2021, right before October conference, YouTube had again attacked me in violation of my rights and by orders of the church, being paid by the church to do it. As the church is a major stockholder in Google and thus have a say in the corporation. Just like with the neo-Nazi that runs X, he asked the board and the stockholders for a vote as to whether or not he can receive multi-billions of dollars. They agreed. If the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is a major stockholder in X, then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would have had a representative to cast the vote to grant him the money. And so likewise with Google. When Nelson got up at the pulpit of conference in 2019 and said we'd rigged the algorithms of Google search, and thus we're now changing the name of the church, no more nicknames, Jesus is now offended. That was because they are a major stockholder of Google and Microsoft and any other search engine, and ordered them to have this change made. And Trump at the same time was also complaining about it. You know, I type in my name and all the hate is about me. You see, Nelson is old school hate. Trump is more new school hate. Even though he's old. But compared to Nelson, he is new. But yeah, the same patterns I've noticed in both of them. This Council for National Policy, I exposed how the church was connected with it. The Skousens were the representatives. W. Cleon Skousen was involved originally in 1981 with its founding, so that the church can have their say in this group. And then Mark Skousen took over when his father died. And as the news would report events that would happen, I would check this membership list that was leaked to see if I can make a connection to it. Because if I can tie it directly to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is a group of people who have a united interest in overthrowing the government for their will upon the rest of Americans. Have no interest in following the United States Constitution and the laws pursuant thereof. They are fully intent on destroying the Constitution and have their will imposed on everybody. And so Project 2025 is that very thing. That is their Constitution to replace our Constitution. And so if you're not a white, rich male, you will be punished under their revised Constitution. And yes, they have blacks, they have women, they have gays and lesbians and LGBTQIAPL plusers. They don't have poor. They have other religions who are suckers and losers to do their will. And so just like in this Council for National Policy, you see a whole bunch of different people who have a shared interest in overthrowing the government. And yeah, I saw an Islamist in there who wants to overthrow the government for Islamic values. There are women who want to overthrow it for Americans for women. There's even some Jews, but it's Messianic Jews, which is not really Jews. It's more of Christians for Jews. And lots of evangelicals and lawyers and others, government and judges. I saw one House of Representatives guy who got busted for money laundering not too long ago. I was doing some research this morning before this video. Kellyanne Conway is somebody that I found in this morning's review of it. Because the first time I went through it, I was looking for Mormons. That's how I found Cleon Skousen. And Bannon stuck out in that first wave also, because I had known about Bannon already. And Bannon also had gotten in trouble and locked up in prison, but then Trump pardoned him. And so now again, he's back in prison for other crimes, but still related to the overthrow of America. He's a member. And that's why he's been doing the crimes he's been doing. Because he's a part of this secret combination. And so when the news came out about a guy who was hooking up SCOTUS with billionaires to rig SCOTUS and their decisions, yep, there's Leonard Leo, a member. And so yeah, Kellyanne Conway, a member. And they blacked out George Conway, her husband. He's not a member. And I don't know why they're still married to each other. She wants to overthrow America. He wants a communist America. He keeps doing interviews with deep state Dems, because if you didn't know, it's weird, because the Dems really aren't Islamic. It's the progressives that are Islamic. And so Harris, by conforming to progressives in the base to get their vote, is pro-terrorism, Islamic terrorism, because you got to know the origins of Islam. You can't disregard it and say that, they haven't committed any crimes. It's called sleeper cells. It's called a secret combination. They've got the plot already planned. They've been implementing it. Everybody tied to it are equally culpable. And so, similar with the law, that if you murder somebody, anybody who was assisting you in that plot to murder, even if it was to have heard about it and didn't report it, all such persons are equally responsible as if they had murdered the person. And so a bank robbery, if the driver of the vehicle didn't rob the bank, but knew that the guys he's giving a ride to after and before, that they were robbing the bank, he is equally responsible. And so too are anybody who sees the bank robbers shooting their way out of the bank with the masks on and the bags of cash and rushing into the vehicles and then go about their day afterwards. You're also equally guilty. You can't sit back having witnessed a crime and not report it, because now you are guilty of the crime. And so you cannot witness a Mormon paying the extortion racket and the prostitution price to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, witnessing Mormons going out on a mission to recruit others to pay the extortion price and the prostitution price to the Church of Jesus Christ and not report it. How many of you are ex-foes? How many of you are never Moes? How many of you are Moes? Every single one of you have witnessed this church compromising Mormons to commit crimes. Did you report it? Yes, I did. That's going to be your question to divert away from your responsibility, which is exactly what my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers did. Yes, I've been reporting. I'm the one who got the Insurrection Act out in the public view, suing the church the second time around in 2020. It was a RICO case, but it involved the Insurrection Act in it because of the conspiracy to overthrow the government, and my knowledge that the church was going to overthrow the government. But that was before I found the Council for National Policy membership, because I've been doing my research. I knew about the Danites. And so, yeah, I've told the story, and I've been telling it lately as well. That filing under RICO was required to be submitted to the Attorney General at the time, which was Bill Barr. And he rejected it. And of course, Pharaoh said, no, I will not let Mormons go. But he would go on to talk to the prosecutors about how Black Lives Matter need to be treated under the Insurrection Act that he had just learned about. And they didn't, but he would go on to do other performances about how, you know, Black Lives Matter protesters are fake news and blah, blah, blah. And then January 6th happened. And I'm just banging my head going, I warned America, they did nothing. They let it happen. And then after Biden got put in, he refused to invoke the Insurrection Act. And so everybody who was responsible for cooing America in that attempt, because an attempt is equal in penalty to committing the crime. You don't have to actually go through with it. You don't have to actually succeed. You just have to attempt. And if you fail, you still are guilty. You made the attempt. You had plotted it. You had planned it. You had gotten a group together to do it. That's all that's needed. And so there's no reason to wait for them to actually go through with it. That's stupid as an investigator. That's stupid as an executive branch. If you've got them plotting it, you got them. Get them. Don't wait for them to receive the shipment of weapons. You've got their playbook. It is so frustrating. But when you have a compromised government, that's exactly what they do. You get police officers who come to the scene of an assault and they say, well, I don't see you're bleeding. You're not bleeding. What do you mean you're not seeing me bleeding? There was cameras, there were witnesses. That's all that's needed. You're wanting me to die before you're going to take action, huh? That's stupid. And it's so annoying to be checking on the local news here in Utah, and day after day you have the cops saying, hey, this crime occurred, we need the public's help because we're not going to investigate. They are not trained to investigate. They are trained to lock people up and force a confession, even if they're not guilty. That's it. Dear God. I know how to shoot innocent people in the back. You know, they've I know how to drive my car around and pull people over and give them a ticket that's going to be several $100s so that it can pay my paycheck. But it's not a quota. That's exactly the kinds of arguments of my white supremacist Christian nationalist bears. So yeah, that opened my eyes, as now I'm seeing Project 2025, Heritage Foundation. There's a whole bunch of Heritage Foundationers in that book. And even ones that get replaced, I see their replacement in the book. And yeah, there's one lady who died that I am aware of. You know, I can't do a thorough research on every one of them. But yeah, I am aware of some of the popular ones. And you do not want Project 2025. If you have been brainwashed by this group, and they're spreading it around to support it, even as the church supports it, because a lot of their doctrines that they've been forcing upon Mormons are in Project 2025 because of the Scousins. Scousins make sure that the church's will be done. And so you don't see the church too often other than for their religious freedom push part. That's when you start seeing the church's involvement directly, rather than Skousen involved in this group. Whereas others in this group, you see them making a direct contribution to overthrowing the Constitution, like Steve Bannon and Leonard Leo, and the one Texas congressman who got busted for money laundering, and Kellyanne Conway, who was the liar for Trump. And she's still on Fox as a major contributor, as her husband's on the Deep Space News. Cleon Skousen, in case you didn't know, because you're too young, was a major publisher of Mormon books. And so he was never made a member of the 70 because the church assigned him to this committee, this secret combination. And so his works were not given credibility, therefore. He sacrificed his life, according to the law of sacrifice, for the church to get the church's will through this Council for National Policy. And one of the first things they got accomplished was Reagan tinkled-down economics. That's the church. Through W. Cleon Skousen and this group, they were able to get Reagan to implement that, which has still destroyed America to this day, as we see it here implemented in Utah. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and the government will give to a corporation which on the outward appearances is for the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted, except that the poor and the needy, the sick and the afflicted never see a single penny of it because of tinkle-down economics. It's in the news now. You see the prison. $1 billion for the prison. And the news is reporting that the prisoners are not seeing a single penny of it. No duh! Cale Miller's concentration camps of hell, of human trafficking. No duh! Not a single penny goes to the homeless. So likewise, that's why you have the pyramid schemes, MLM schemes, Ponzi schemes, that flood the state of Utah. USANA, doTERRA. doTERRA was even promoted by Cox as governor. Governor Cox promoting a criminal operation simply because he's a Mormon, following the example of the church, because Mormons have been programmed to be criminals and think it's good. From babies, that is what we are indoctrinated in. And we go to primary and we sing the hymns. Hey, I can do that. If by chance you see somebody frowning, do not let them frown. Quickly force them to turn it upside down and smile that frown away. That's not the exact wording, is it? But that's how Mormons understand it, and that's how Mormons implement it. So when they see other people frowning, oh, your mom just got blown away at the grocery store. Well, you gotta smile. She's in the celestial kingdom now. What? I thought we had to wait for the resurrection for her to get into the celestial kingdom. She's just in heaven right now waiting. No, you don't. You mourn with those who mourn. Comfort those in need of comfort. You know, from the scriptures. And so, I've got another revision for you. Idaho Chick is probably the only one who will appreciate it. And we're 40 minutes in, so nobody's listening. I gotta stop laughing so I can do this without busting up. Me. Jesus said, screw everyone, treat them like a whore. When your heart is filled with hate, God will love you more. Came up with that the other day, and I was trying to figure out how to incorporate that, so now I can throw that paper away. I was doing that back in primary because of the excellent education I got with English grammar, English comprehension. And so I was able to see the dualisms and meanings, especially with my white supremacist Christian nationalist peers who are purposely creating new definitions to destroy the original definitions of words. You know, like democracy, conspiracy theory, love, Jesus, etc., etc. And so, yeah, it's just sick and wrong how I've witnessed everything over all these decades. And now we're 99 days away from complete and utter destruction of America. I intended to use the 100 days from yesterday picture for yesterday's video, but I never got to the video. But that's sad that people have been so warped with the incorrect programming in their brains that now they think that destroying America is going to make their life better. Destroying other people's lives is going to make their lives better. And they have no clue of the consequences that are likely to harm their lives. You know, and just look at the Mormons who went off the deep end. The 8 passengers lady with Jody Hildebrandt, the psychologist. They're now in prison. They thought that they were doing something to benefit others and raise her family and help other people on how to raise their kids and be funny and creative, and now it's criminal and they're in prison. Brian David Mitchell, he's Mormon, was excommunicated, but still believed in the church of his interpretation. And so he believed in polygamy. And so, yeah, little 14-year-old girl, Elizabeth Smart, she's a cute honey bunny. He keeps trying to peep into her window as he's mowing the lawn. So he kidnaps her one day. Probably didn't get paid for mowing the lawn, I guess. I don't know. I didn't really want to get too much involved into that background story because, quite simple, he took away Elizabeth Smart's liberty, life, and property. Brian David Mitchell needed to be punished for his crimes. Instead, the state of Utah didn't want to do that and put him in a psycho home. And so it took Elizabeth Smart's father, who had connections with Orrin Hatch, so that Orrin Hatch could order a reevaluation in the federal courts. and amazing. He's cured. He's not a psycho after all. And so now he's in prison. And Warren Jeffs, he was just following Brigham Young, and John Taylor. Wilford Woodruff fell, was not obedient to the words of Jesus, son of Adam. And the big bad mean United States of America was not letting him violate snap fraud, and child bride polygamy, and child slave labor, and even trafficking as they're moving from state to state. And so the members still believe their church is true. And Mormons just go, well, obviously they're not true. Really? How many of you are practicing polygamy like you're supposed to? Oh, no. We don't practice polygamy anymore, Travis. Really? Do you really not go to church anymore? Do you not go to conference? Do you not even go to the temple? The law of chastity was changed, boys and girls. And apparently you're stupid. Or you're just wicked, not following the living prophet of Jesus to obey him and resume child bride polygamy. That's what it was changed to. Are you doing it? You're not. Why are you wicked? Do you understand that the prophets are also going to bring back the blood atonement? Since you're wicked, the only way that you can be saved is to murder you. And you want to stay Mormon, do you? As a wicked Mormon. So, oh yeah. Trump revealed the ear and he covered it up with hair. He doesn't have the shot. He faked it. Because before I heard about it last night, I was already planning on doing a video, which would have included 100 days, in which the white supremacist Christian nationalist bullies, as a kid, would pressure people into exposing themselves. And so, yes, I was going to demonstrate their techniques on Trump. Show the ear. Show the ear. Come on, Trump, show them. Show them that you got shot. These little sensitive snowflakes who are claiming that you didn't get shot. You know, Director Ray testifies that you didn't get shot. Prove it. Show the ear. Show the ear. And so Trump would then be put into a very precarious position because he didn't get shot. And so, in order to show that he got shot, he's going to have to actually now shoot it. It's called calling your bluff. Hilarious. Show the ear. Alrighty. And so, yeah, I was also disturbed with some local news. I don't think I have those papers anymore. because the time went by. We'll check. No, we just got more video ideas that I'll probably never get to. Nope. Yeah, there's a Lovell guy that was in the news. He's no longer going to get the death penalty because of the church's tampering in his case. And there's at least a couple other stuff also. It's sad because after so many years, over the years it gets harder to remove the corrupted programming. And it's the same thing with AI. AI should have been programmed with logical, Socratic methodology and science theory development with laws of physics, laws of math, and instead they put in psychology, which corrupted the whole program. And so that's why when ChatGPT first came out, it was telling people to murder themselves and murder others. It's because of the corrupted programming of psychology. And so, yeah, I'm not seeing people stop AI and reprogramming it from scratch. They're trying to fix it as they go, and no, you're not removing the psychological component from it. And as a result, I'm now seeing it being used in other applications, and it's not going to be good. And people don't understand generally what's going on how AI works. And we're left to assume that Hollywood script writers are true. Which, of course, provokes evangelicals in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Just like the new movie Heretic that's coming out with Hugh Grant. You got Mormon housewives all upset with her garments in a bunch because they're not allowed to wear unless they're which was complaining that Mormons cannot be in a horror movie where sister missionaries are terrorized by a psycho killer kiskise. You know, Mormons want to live in a bubble and have everybody keep them in the bubble. Everything must be faith promoting, otherwise you're the enemy. Mormons deny the truth of who they are and their origins. And it's real simple. Learning of the Jews, pre-Babylonian captivity Egyptians. That's the religion. And that was not Christianity. So, alrighty, another day. So, yeah, I've been doing it to Nelson the whole time. Prove you're a translator. Prove you're a prophet. Prove you're a seer. Prove you're a revelator. Oops, he failed. I used to do a series of Elijah versus the Nelson. Just humiliating him. But yeah, that's where I get my clips from. Nelson's talks, where he shows that he's not. And Mormons still cling to him like the FLDS members do to Warren Jeffs. You can't pull out, can you? And so, yes, you tell a Mormon they're bad, and they prove it to you.